is another annual tradition, which is a conversation with executives from the world's leading agencies on the future of media investment. This session is moderated by Marc Miller, Senior Vice President, National Sales at OUTFRONT Media. So please welcome Marc to the stage. Woohoo!
Yeah, woohoo! All my friends, wow. Good afternoon. So here we are. So maybe to kick it off, let's have everyone introduce themselves, their role within their respective organizations, and where does out-of-home sit specifically if it's siloed? It's all you, Carrie.
Hi, I'm Carrie Drinkwater. I'm the Chief Investment Officer at Carat, and out-of-home sits in Dentsu, who's obviously our holdco, and we work very closely with them. We feel like we are one, which is great. Doesn't feel siloed, even though in name it is.
Very good, Katerina.
Katerina Sudit. I run MRM Media globally. We're a boutique-sized but global full-service media agency. So out-of-home is one of our passions, one of the many things that we do as we kind of think about media holistically around the world.
And I am LaCroix. I'm the Executive Vice President of Media and Growth at MissionOne Media. We're part of Barclay OKRP. We like to affectionately call ourselves a big indie. We are one of, if not the largest, kind of independent agencies in the country, and building a large media agency within a full-service agency from media to creative to CRM to SEO. And I think our out-of-home kind of sits, kind of wherever you need it to be. We service a lot of clients across a lot of markets and CPG, QSR, as well as finance and travel. It really kind of converges across the physical, the traditional, the digital, all of the above.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, guys. So to start off, and let's jump right in. So out-of-home traditionally suffers from underinvestment from key brands. As stated earlier today, we're sitting at a disappointing 2.5% of overall media budget, down from 4%. This is due in part to emergence of increased popularities like CTV, podcast, social, and creators. So maybe it's a two-part question. One, why do you think out-of-home is at 3%? And then number two, and I think everyone here would be interesting to hear from each of you, what are the necessary changes the industry needs to make to increase our share? Maybe Carrie?
I guess I'm in the hot seat.
Yeah.
Okay, why do I think it's as low as it is? I think it's the misperceptions. I think media mix modeling companies, and hopefully I'm not offending anyone, but things are getting bucketed incorrectly. I don't think there's enough attribution to what out-of-home can do and how impactful it can be. I think there's a lot of misattribution in our industry in general. I talk a lot about how podcasts' #1 platform is YouTube, but it's audio, yet it's really on video and it's getting millions of views. I think out-of-home suffers the same. I think it's misattribution. What was part two, remind me?
What are the necessary changes the industry needs to make?
I think being able to demonstrate that business results, I think we have to be able to demonstrate that good out-of-home, it really is so impactful. I mean, the technology, the data, the creativity that it offers across all platforms, I think being able to tie those to business results or testing, awareness, word of mouth, other cultural impacts, I think really demonstrating the benefit and the impact on business is needed to help move the needle, even just a little bit.
I'll just build on that. I see two main opportunities for out-of-home as we think about growth. So first and foremost, I think that out-of-home unnecessarily gets looked at as as an investment area, right? And I actually think out-of-home is a hugely strategic area. It can amplify, other channels. It can, deliver a real-world experience. It provides incredible contextual opportunities, for fashion brands to, generate, premium equities and things like that. It has all of these incredible strategic applications that are not just what is the scale of a national campaign or what are you doing on a local market, right? So if we start thinking about it as strategic applications of growth rather than just scaled growth, I think that that is where there's a huge opportunity. And fundamentally, if we start talking to the strategists, not just the investment community, no offense, if we start, and here's the thought, you guys should hire a CSO at OUTFRONT at all of the arenas, because the biggest challenge that we have as agencies is that clients are not allowing us enough time to think and enough time to strategize. And we are dying for new ways to use the things that are already out there, but we just don't have time to solve for that. So if you build into your sales communities, strategic advisories, and you allow us to understand how to strategically use the mediums based on what we're trying to do, I think that there's going to be a huge opportunity for strategic growth. And the second thing that I think that is the big opportunity is not even to think about it as a channel. We aren't living in a channel-filled world. It's not about programmatic or out-of-home or TV. Channels don't exist anymore. Think about it. TikTok is stealing share from every video platform, from search. Search isn't, Google and Bing anymore. It's Perplexity, it's ChatGPT, it's RMNs, it's TikTok. So even considering out-of-home as a channel, I think, is deeply limiting. So we need to think about how we're building experiences for the brands and for our clients, and therefore the opportunity for out-of-home to completely go through a reimagination becomes, endless opportunities.
Yeah, couldn't agree with all the things you just said there. In terms of why it's so woefully underfunded, one, I think the industry just sees it as, hard. It's not easy in terms of how many people across the industry think about how to buy things. The incentives aren't there, right? I think they want to see immediate ROAS. They want to make sure it's going to work in their marketing mix models, their MMMs and whatnot. And not to say that it doesn't drive immediate ROI and it can't work in the mixed models, but in the current kind of systems, the metrics, the knobs that people are used to looking at and turning, out of home it's hard to work within there. And just frankly, a lot of people are just hands on keyboard. They only know how to do a couple, 3 things. They're kind of incentivized to not get fired versus, get promoted. And that doesn't work in out of home's favor. But to your point, it's not a channel. It's so much bigger than that. It's the opportunity to really kind of reach somebody at the right time, right place, right message. It is, a canvas that can be highly creative. Carrie and I, back in the day, worked at an agency where ideas and kind of creative media was the currency. And, 9 times out of 10, I think we went to outdoor to be like, okay, what's the thing we can put in the pitch or get the award for? I'm not saying that's the right incentive all the time, but, outdoor, as it were, was the place where you could do the most creative stuff, the most breakthrough stuff. And I think the industry needs to both kind of speak the common language and showcase, to Carrie's point, how it's going to drive real business results, probably speak more in some of the metrics that people are used to working against and buying against, but then also showcase that, yes, you can buy this and use these platforms at scale. You can do real breakthrough work that ultimately is going to drive not just a ton of attention and not just stuff that's going to be seen, but stuff that's going to be seen and remembered and then ultimately drive action. And I think where things are going in terms of technology, and connectivity and kind of all, everything being both physical and digital, the opportunity's there. It's just, I think, on both the buy side and the sell side, people just need to come together and unite on those.
Awesome, thanks for that. So, we're talking about outcomes, we're talking about media mix modeling a bit, and your point about the strategist, well taken. So thank you guys. The next question, maybe I'll turn this to Katerina to kick it off. Airbnb's Chief Business Officer, Dave Stephenson, said we were right to shift spend from performance to brand marketing, noticing robust returns and an increase in the company's global presence. The headlines are everywhere. Has the shift from performance to brand activated within your organization?
100%. And I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I feel like the industry for the last 10 years writ large has had a short-termism mentality. It's been what is attributable, what is the last click, what can I prove to the street, to the board, to my stakeholders. And I think that the beauty of a lot of the opportunities that you were just talking about have basically fallen by the wayside. And what's fascinating is that Forrester just released a study in partnership with analytics partners that basically said that upwards of 60 to 90% of sales is being directly attributed to brand efforts. Not how brand is helping performance, directly attributing to those brand efforts. And it makes sense. I mean, when you think about how, the influx of DTC brands have been operating, they've essentially flattened the funnel, right? In social today, a DTC brand can go from first awareness to consideration to purchase in under a minute and a half. So the funnel doesn't really exist in that way anymore, and we can't think about brand and demand in silos. You have to think about them collectively. And I think that gives such an open roadway to out-of-home as what has been traditionally felt as a more upper funnel or maybe even mid-funnel solution, because now the measurement isn't just about what is performing in that moment. And really, it's not even just about the measurement, because those studies are telling us that if you do brand well, your sales are going to benefit from that. And I'm not saying stop doing performance, we're not bananas, but I think that rebalance that's being suggested by some of the CMOs today is, it is a smart and positive reaction to the short-termism that's been happening over the last few years.
Awesome. And maybe Carrie, as I walk through the halls of your agency, and even when we were in a meeting just 6 weeks ago with yourself and Kara Lewis, there was a big talk about the pendulum maybe swinging too far one way. How would you?
I think, brand and performance has come up repeatedly. I think more so the past year than I've ever heard it before. And given, all the macroeconomic factors, it's not surprising because there is a real push on CMOs, on media clients from procurement to really justify and explain where the best next dollar is spent. And I think, sort of playing off what Katerina said, I think the funnel gets effed. I mean, if you don't have enough brand, it's not a funnel, it becomes a cylinder. I don't think that works. I love brand. I love out of home. I talked to Martin. I said to Martin, I'm so passionate about it. And I think you will start to see, all clients will start to see their funnel turn into cylinders. And long term, there will be consequence. And again, playing a little bit off of what Katerina was saying, I think when you look at big, some of these D2C companies that were just digital, you see them in out-of-home, you see them in TV, you see them starting to appear where they have to grow their brand because they're beyond the point of return when they're just speaking one-to-one. So I love brand. That's why I'm in this business, and I am all in on helping create the platforms and push platforms that help clients and consumers get, what's right for them.
Awesome.
So many things to say on this topic. Just being in the industry as long as I have, I'm older than I look. No one's never ever being in media planning and being someone who probably was more positioned more in the upper funnel on the brand side, never was walking around being like, oh, these millions of dollars I'm spending on behalf of my organization or these clients I serve doesn't have to perform. It's just there to get something, just get awareness. It's not like that. And that the flip side is not that all these things need to perform. And just putting things in what are traditionally known as performance media channels like pay-per-click or even paid social pieces, it doesn't do enough. Someone has to do the job of creating attention and awareness and familiarity amongst an audience in order for them to ultimately consider and convert. So I think somehow our industry's made things, we always do this, we make it too hard and too bifurcated. You need kind of all the things, right? You need all the things to ultimately, make people aware, make people consider, ultimately convert and stay loyal. So, and I think no channel only does one and not the other, frankly. I think you can use, search platforms in a way to help build proper awareness, and you can certainly use television and outdoor and radio to drive sales. They all kind of do everything. It's just how you think about them, what you're trying to do for that period in time, for that assignment.
Yeah, listen, we've spent, we've done plenty of attribution studies. I think that, in 2024, we quadrupled the amount of attribution studies we did. And to your point, it's not just brand awareness. So we're able to do both, but I appreciate the comments. Out-of-home, OUTFRONT has coined the term social out-of-home to describe the phenomenon of out-of-home being the foundation for many viral social campaigns. Have you seen this, and has the rise in popularity of creators heightened the connection? And I'll leave it to any of you to grab this one.
I can start. We did talk about this. I mean, I think the growth of social media has heightened the connection. So I think everything, people just want to share and show. And we've seen, some of the Bad Bunny, we've seen in my feed this week, and maybe because I'm here and everything's listening, I've seen so many amazing out of home. But, I'll steal Pat's line. He mentioned Marc. I mean, that was celebrity, and we still talk about it. So I think the ability to share and social has really helped the power of out of home. And again, we've seen some of the, I can't think of the out of home installation that goes right to Ireland. Is that what it is? Yes, the portal. I mean, that's amazing. And everybody's talking and sharing, and that's an out of home. So I think social has amplified the power and beauty of out of home.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's social. I mean, I think there's opportunity because it is truly both digital and physical, and it can kind of bridge both worlds and be very precise in terms of understanding where someone is and kind of what's going on in the culture, and kind of layering in things like proximity and place-based information and driving to some certain type of action. I think it's social, but it's also kind of it's inviting participation, and then really at the end of the day to kind of unlock the dollars in the marketplace. It's like, how do you drive actual actions and behaviors that can be measurable? And I think the convergence of what's going on in out of home with retail media, and then obviously kind of the phone being the constant between the two. I mean, the opportunity is the potential is huge.
I'll just kind of echo what you're both saying. So when you think about kind of the old ways of engaging with out of home, so we were talking about like QR codes and things like that, technology has taken us to such infinite places right now that it really is that there is a bridge between, the real world, the physical world, and the digital world. It was all catalyzed by COVID. Think about it. During COVID, all of a sudden in the span of like 2 weeks, we needed to figure out what our own brands were in digital environments, right? So we're kind of a few years past that. And what we've seen is that there have been excellent campaigns. So in addition to the ones you were talking about, Carrie, when we look at, the Charlie XCX Brat, wall, that was phenomenal. And that drove, the foundation of that was out of home. But what that did is it caused this incredible echo effect across kind of, the digital universe into social spaces, into all sorts of other environments that drove the success of that campaign. So when we think about out of home, back to the whole thing, it's not a channel, it's not just about its connectivity. It is really a part of a brand experience, and we just need to think of what is the strategic role that it's playing in that moment, and how can it become something that really just transcends, real worlds and digital worlds.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, out of home drives 7 times more social activation per dollar spent than any other media. I mean, absolutely incredible. So shifting gears, and maybe on a comment that you made, Pat, earlier about the out of home at times being felt cumbersome to buy. One area of the industry has seen great growth has been on automated buying. So in your opinion, whether it's programmatic or use of an ad server, do you think that's at all helped change the perception that out of home is difficult or cumbersome to buy?
I don't know if it has. It certainly should. And I wonder if the right people are not talking to the right people on both sides of the proverbial table, if you will. I think at the end of the day, everything has to drive towards measurable outcomes, and I think it can be done on a small scale to kind of prove its worth. But if the data is there and you can kind of show a through line that these placements in these places are driving some form of desired action and behavior, I think where things can get really interesting is like it's just as you were talking about Charlie XCX. It's like outdoor is really a barometer for where culture is at. Like whether you're in New York or even driving down the Mass Pike, where you see gambling and cannabis billboards all over the place. It's like, well, that's where the culture's at. That's where the action is. And oftentimes it's kind of ahead of the curve in that way. So I think the more that just tech and tools and metrics and measurements are just lining up in a way so kind of outdoor can get its rightful place at the table in terms of looking across a potential investment portfolio. And then the fact that it is such a canvas to do such a higher bar of creative than other channels can be. And I would also ask, as these tools become more available, and we should be able to kind of, because look, media planners and buyers, just hand up. Like, we're just looking at common denominators all day, and it still comes down to CPMs and CPAs and CPCs and maybe even CTRs still. But I think, you know, the ultimate idea that you can really see, you know, when you have a higher level of creative, how that drives a much greater level of attention and then hopefully action, you know, the industry should be able to rise as a result.
Awesome. Awesome. Is there, so maybe moving on, because I can see that clock's moving quicker than we expected. Is there a media plan, and maybe we'll turn this to Carrie to start. Is there a media plan or campaign that utilizes out of home in a significant way that you're especially proud of that you could share?
Yes. I love what Kraft has been doing. So I don't know if those of you saw, but DJ Mustard, that's his name. He's Kendrick Lamar. He performs with Kendrick Lamar, and by fate, you know, his song in Kendrick Lamar's Grammy Award-winning song, he says, "Mustard." I didn't know that until, but I'm sure if you're a certain age, you know, or if you have kids a certain age. And so he was nominated for a Grammy, and he was performing at the Super Bowl, again, all kismet. And so we bought a spot in the Grammys last minute. We tried to position it, you know, around when we thought he would win. Thankfully he won. Right when he won, we launched a big out-of-home campaign that said "Mustard." And we did a whole social thing around it, but it was so powerful because it literally launched when he accepted. When everyone came out, it was there. And it was amazing. It was just one of those moments that you just love in our business, where you can just take advantage of a moment in culture and make a brand like Mustard part of culture. And I think Kraft has done an amazing job. I mean, I thought Marc got really wet today going out for lunch. He came back, he had to be dried before we came in. And it made me think of Kraft had an out-of-home campaign in Seattle. It was a painted mural, and when it rained, it changed to say, like, "Our fries stay dry." I'm not doing the creative copy justice, but it was so powerful and so on brand, and relevant for today. So love when a CPG, you know, you think of entertainment or travel with out of home, but I love when a CPG can make some magic happen.
And listen, I think the point that maybe you made a little bit ago, Pat, you know, we are the culture in each of the cities, right? So our ability to connect with individuals and to be, you know, resonate at that moment in time with whatever is happening, you know, clearly with the Grammys, you know, it's some of our superpowers. Katerina, do you have one that you'd like to talk about?
Carrie, you and I didn't talk about this, but we should have shared our favorites because this is going to sound very familiar. So we had a campaign. It was for sparkling ice. I don't know if you guys know sparkling ice. It's like that, like tall, yeah, lots of head nods. 3% of the U.S., so thank you for helping.
I think they're all in this room.
Clearly. Targeting. We actually briefed for that campaign around not awareness or funnel metrics or any of those things, but we were like, what type of a world would a brand like this create? And, you know, to be able to connect in culture with Gen Z, it was all about, like, you know, it needs to be an egalitarian world. It needs to be one that is not weighed down by a lot of, you know, the things that, you know, we feel are unfair in this world. And that's what the brand needs to stand for. So we had a campaign during Barbiegate. Do you guys remember Barbiegate? For those that don't remember, biggest feminine power movie of the year, and literally the two main females, you know, the director and Margot Robbie, you know, the lead character, get overlooked for an Oscar. And Ken, who was fine, he was not bad, but he was fine, he gets the Oscar nod. So Barbiegate ensues. Same thing, 6 days, I think, 5 days before the Oscars, we called the network and we said, listen, we need the spot right after Best Director, where Greta Gerwig was going to be notably absent from. We told them the creative idea, you know, they were like, okay, go for it. And we ran a 15-second, I don't want to call it a spot because it had nothing to do with the brand. And all it said was, like, it was a little typeface, right? And it said, congratulations to all the Greta directors. Beat, cross out, you know, Greta and put great directors, wink, you know, and that was it. And we ran it at the same time in Times Square. And the reason for that is because it was an incredible amplification moment of something that was happening because there was more people probably in Times Square or that were, taking it and sharing it on social than were actually watching the Oscars, facts. So that's my favorite out-of-home campaign. And we really were able to not just be really creative, but we were written up in Vanity Fair as winning, the Oscars because everyone else was talking about product. And we were talking about how to make culture egalitarian and special, and it was a huge win for the brand, and we couldn't have done it without, what we were doing in Times Square at the same time.
Awesome. So I'm going to ask Pat a slightly different question just to mix it up a bit. Can you share a campaign that you didn't run out of home with, right? And if you were to do it all over again, would you? And if so, what's the campaign and why?
Yeah, I think you're leading me to where I'm going to go. So I used to lead media and advertising at Bose. We did, I think, no out of home that I can really remember. We might have done a few like experiential stuff, but not like outdoor in the traditional sense, which in hindsight, it's like, you think about it, like headphones and being on the go and traveling, so endemic to the space, but we didn't do it because the metrics weren't there, and we were very much a performance media-driven company, even though we didn't call it that. It was really just like, hey, this has to drive sales, and we had, frankly, more of a DR approach. But that was a miss, and I think now that the data and the tools and the technology is getting there to show that outdoor can really deliver, I would just implore all of us, myself included, like, demonstrate the scale, demonstrate the capability and the measurement of the platforms and the channels, but do not lose the soul. Like for all the examples you just said, like the creativity of outdoor, broadly speaking, is what makes it unique and different in addition to the proximity. So I think when you can kind of map that scale with soul together, that's kind of where the magic happens. And unlike what's happened in traditional digital channels, programmatic and data and ad tech, it can somewhat be a race to the bottom and lead people to oblivion, kind of your Airbnb example, and I don't think that should ever happen to outdoor.
Listen, I appreciate that. And for everyone in this room who is either on the sales side or the agency side, having the conviction of an idea and taking it through the agency, then ultimately the client, is for you to be able to say, you know what, in hindsight, we should have looked at it differently. And I think it's a great message for everyone in this room because with all the passion that we have for out of home, we've got to spread it as far from the agency to the strategy teams to the clients. So thanks for that. Good stuff. So, oh wow, the light is blinking. So here we're going to close out on a quick final question, which is when you fantasize about your dream out of home campaign. That's funny, right? What does it look like? And now that we've less time, it could be a quick answer.
So I'm going to change what we talked about, coming in here and seeing that out of home, like the Dolly Parton speaking and Jamie Lee Curtis. I think doing something to change the world. Like, we are not saving lives if media can do something to change the world. I'd be remiss. We should be taking advantage of what we do and sharing it to make a difference.
Thank you.
So I'm going to be unironically a throwback right now. Do you guys remember Minority Report from like forever ago? So I feel like if we could bring that to today's world, like hyper-personalized messaging at scale. So imagine like you're walking by, an out-of-home unit, and it's basically either sending you a text or, somehow communicating with you. It's like, hey, your Verizon plan is up today. Verizon's 2 blocks away. That is an incredibly effective full funnel or flattened funnel, approach to what I would love to kind of see happen much more often.
I'll just keep it simple, I guess. I think there's a massive opportunity, just like how retail media has connected up with CTV and social to some degree. I think it should happen out of home, and just simply doing some proximity-based work, some campaigns where we, do smart outdoor, which doesn't have to be billboards. It could be in gyms and other places, airports, whatnot, and showing how that has a through line to sales at, fill in the blank, big box, e-com retailer. Awesome.
Well, thank each of you for your time on the panel. Thanks everyone for tuning in. And I guess drop the mic. Thanks, guys.